goodness.
All right. Doing this will bring you closer to a man. What's it mean to be closer to a man or
Well,
woman?
I think the whole idea is to draw you closer to a man, right? Or
Yeah.
draw you closer to a woman. So yeah, it's I think so much of our lives, are based on what we don't want.
Yeah.
And I think this is how do we get to what we do want?
Okay. Whether it's to find the right relationship or to make the right relation or to make the existing relationship better.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and I were watching a video this morning. Do you remember that?
Which one?
The one where the guy asked a question of a woman, how do I make myself more attractive? And the woman came on, this was an Instagram reel, talking about how her attraction level for men is less than 0.1% of 1%. And do you remember the video?
Yes.
Can you kind of explain it with everybody?
I think what she was focusing on particularly, what she was saying was that she can, in a split second of a date or a connection or a meetup or whatever, decide whether or not that person was worthy of her time, so to speak. Or, and that she could figure out if she was attracted to that person that quickly. And we were both saying,
but the way the man carried himself, what he said, all these little things,
his gait.
Yeah, she called it gait.
Yes.
And what I thought was interesting is she started to talk about compassion and empathy and everything. And I'm like, if you can figure out compassion and empathy before a person opens their mouth, I'm like, you have skills.
Serious skills.
But then when she went on to say that her likelihood of being attracted to someone was less than 0.1%, I'm like, what hope does that give people?
Very little.
Like, it's almost as if there's a bias or God, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like, she's so focused on what she doesn't want that she doesn't see what she does want.
How can you?
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many friends who say, the dating apps are a shit show.
Yeah.
This is it's the shallow end of the pool.
Yeah.
And
they're swiping left going, I can't, or no, they look at someone who wrote them. No, they look at somebody who wrote them and said, oh my God, I can't believe this person had the nerve to write me. I got to be candid with you. And I'm going to curse right now. That fucking pisses me off. To somebody say, I can't believe this person had the nerve to write me.
You've actually heard those words?
I swear to God. And like, what were they thinking? Like, I would accept that.
There's a lot of people out there, women I know, that will say much more, along the lines that they're happy to be written to.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, he's not. He's not my guy. Pretty quickly.
Okay. I'm okay with someone saying, I'm happy I got written to, but he's not my guy.
Right.
But when you go straight to contempt, there's almost this negative, bitter, jaded approach. I see so many. By the way, they don't get off the hook here. Okay. Look, at men are just as much, we might be criticizing. They're
the younger,
by the way,
younger model.
Looking doesn't mean you're going to get the younger model.
True. That is true. There is the ego involved in this.
So, but I want to address that. What I got this sense of watching this person's video, and there was almost this bitter, jaded despair and doubt going on.
I almost felt like it was a confidence. It was almost too much of a confidence. It was a little to the egoic side. It was a little overly confident.
Yes.
And I think.
No, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but I want to say, I think the reason why she became overconfident because there's a bitter, jaded side running the show.
Maybe. I mean, there's a whole camp out there that, are like swipe based on what, one sentence that they say,
So
there's got to be a happy medium.
So what does somebody have to do to bring someone closer is the title of this video and the things that you can say. And what we wanted to address is how to go from doubt or even despair. But we'll call doubt. Okay. Yeah. I don't believe this will happen. I don't believe it'll happen. I don't believe it'll happen.
Or they're saying it's, pardon the French, that it's a shit show, that they can't, there are no good men, they don't communicate. They don't this. They
Oh my
don't
God,
that.
the whole thing about men aren't good. I mean, look, I get men are poor communicators and everything,
Right.
but if you're focused in the doubt, where does the hope come from?
Right.
And so we want to kind of look at from hope, from despair to hope, from doubt to hope, and what it takes to get there. And so I created a list. I'm looking at it right now. So
Mhm.
we'll review this. But
Sure.
the first thing to consider to go from doubt to hope is to stop fighting what is and tell yourself the truth. It's time for a reality check, to acknowledge and surrender the victim consciousness, that space of blame and judgment, and really accept where you're at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can-
I think, well, so, I mean, I have gone through oodles of friends who have come from that place.
Yeah.
And I've been there myself.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in this like, wow, what am I doing here? And I, you know, for me, I mean, I come from a sales background. So,
Mhm.
you know, I got to
Yeah.
the point where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to kind of make a game out of this. And it got to be sort of fun in the journeying of
Yeah.
it, right? But, and yet you sort of have to, you know, see it through rose-colored lenses if you have an expectation
Okay.
almost of thinking there's something on the other side, you know,
Yeah.
that there's,
So,
that
but
there's,
okay.
that
So
there's a pony in there amongst all that.
exactly. And you know what I used to do when I was swiping on the apps? Swiping left meaning not interested. You know what I did every time I swiped? And this is the honest to God's truth. I'd go, I'm sending you love. I'm sending you love. I'm sending you love. Like I'm
So
sending off
sweet.
the swipe with love, because I got really fed up with people being so hyper focused on themselves
Yeah.
and not being real, that that's another person,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
human being.
Yeah.
So one is stop fighting what is and tell yourself the truth. Now, the second thing is, folks, is don't do this alone. Again, we're looking
Wait. So when you say tell yourself the truth, for me, that, you know, the
at, it's
despair,
kind of a reality check.
right. Well, so those folks that are in despair, they're talking about, you know,
Yeah.
how crappy it is out
Yeah.
there and whatnot, you know,
Oh, they're telling a
what-
different truth.
well, there's a story in there
Yeah.
somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
good point. Good
So
point.
that's where I wanted to go with that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, all right, we're talking about going from doubt to hope.
Yep.
And the next thing on the list is don't do it alone.
Okay. So meaning
Well,
what?
I think it's looking at reaching out to people, maybe looking at yourself, looking inward and going, okay, could I be a part of what's going on in my life? Maybe seeking a therapist, maybe seeking a coach, like reaching out to people, because if you're in this state of doubt, you're probably even experiencing
okay,
a
I
little
know where
bit
you're
of
going.
anxiety with
Okay.
it. Okay.
So I think the nervous system starts to go off,
Yeah.
and that we don't get, you know, we're not, you wrote a book on it, self-love,
Okay.
right?
Right. What the heck is self-love anyway?
And I think that we don't ground ourselves in self-care, and particularly women,
Yeah.
you know who you are out there, that they don't get into that place of like, what do I want? We've been talking about this for
Yeah.
you know a long time now. What do I want? And you know, where are my boundaries? What are my non-negotiables? Those type of things.
Well, when I talk about reaching out, I'm not talking about that piece. I'm talking about getting help from others.
Well, that's
Okay.
part of self-care.
Yeah.
I mean, for women, we sit in circle. You know,
Yeah.
we talk
Yeah.
about our
Yeah.
crap all
Yeah.
day long. You
Yeah.
know, guys may not, but we do. So
So if
There's
you're
that.
now, I will say, and this is a judgment on my part. Please forgive me. This is a projection, but a lot of times it's also important to go to someone who's not biased, because your friends can also validate the shitty feeling that you're at.
well, so this would also
you know,
include then therapy and self-help
coaches and
and
that sort of thing.
workshopping
Okay.
and coaches and
Okay, so when it comes to going from this place of doubt to hope, I think the next thing to do is seriously do one small thing. You know, like go and it might be putting yourself out on the dating apps. It might be going out in public and saying hi to a stranger. Do one small thing that moves you forward, because if you're in a constant state of there's no good men out there, it's a shit show out there, if you're in this negative vibe, then move forward in the positive realm. Like, do one thing in the positive realm.
Okay, so evidence. I think what I'm hearing from you is every small bit of evidence can get you further and further toward hope.
Yes. In other words, it might be that someone did write you on the app. And you know what? Look at that as a positive,
Right.
even if they
Even
they
if you
weren't
like
your
them.
type kind of thing. Look at that as a positive thing.
Okay.
I think the fourth thing is be gentle with yourself.
Okay.
You know, it's not eat, let's face it. You know, if you're looking for love, if you want a significant relationship, then it requires being gentle for yourself, self-compassion. Paula talked about self-care, that sort of thing. It's important to be good to yourself,
Yeah.
because if you're negative, if your talk is negative, if that self-talk is negative, you're going to see, we have a little joke about, here we live in Los Angeles and there's a boatload of white Teslas. Okay. I mean, you just see them everywhere, white Teslas. And I have a little joke with Paula, but rarely do you see the red Porsche Cabriolet, you know, and I'm thinking, if you're looking for a Porsche Cabriolet, you know, and all you see is the white Teslas, then you'll miss the red one. Even though it's red, you're going to miss it because you're focused on the white Teslas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. By the way.
okay. You know, grounded presence and mindfulness. Coming back to mindfulness, I think this is a really important place to be in. Well, can you elaborate on that?
I think that we talked about, I mean, one of my favorite lines is awareness is the first step on the road to recovery.
Yeah.
And I think that without being mindful of where I was at, I would not have been able to get to the place of knowing where I wanted to go with it and what I want. Like, you know, I had to be able to say, even in our conversations, like, okay, maybe I did show, because I wasn't all in, some avoidant tendencies. And what are
rewind.
those patterns?
People don't know that. So
I know, but I'm throwing it out there that's entirely possible that might have happened.
Oh, okay.
But
In other words, you're taking ownership of your part of what didn't work in your last relationship. Okay.
And I had to become aware of that.
Yeah.
I had to figure out that pattern, become aware and mindful of it, and move from that point and say, okay, am I willing to give someone else a chance that may not, I might not have given that old pattern.
Okay. Okay. So we've been talking a lot, you and I, about embodied love.
Mm-hmm.
And we just shared a couple things to get you out of hope and despair, to move that needle, whether you want to call it up or sideways or that sort of thing. But what we're really talking about is stepping into what we've been talking about, embodied love.
Yeah.
Share with everybody.
So
is it okay if you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So we were having this discussion this morning about that. How do you get to the point of okay, let me back up. I have been a really big advocate for way back in the day with what we used to call the law of attraction, how to magnetize someone to you or something to you. And as a proponent of that, I really truly believe that what we focus on, we attract.
Okay.
And if we're focused on the white Teslas all the time, that's what we're going to attract. But if we're focused on the red Porsche Cabriolet, that's what we're going to attract. And
or at least hopefully see it more frequently.
Yeah. So and so I have dialed this into so many parts of my life, including things like autoimmune disease and whatnot, how to be in the feeling of a thing when you're not experiencing the feeling of the thing.
Okay.
Yet.
Yes.
So how to experience the feeling of the thing, requires us, in a way, it's kind of like if you thought about your potential significant other or your current significant other, and you were to just, put your hand on your heart and close your eyes and think about what that feels like to you. Now, if you don't know what that feels like, how do you embody it?
Okay.
How do you get there?
All right. So one of the exercises I do in my private coaching, and by the way, folks, we hope to do a workshop on this embodied love within the next few months. So just stay tuned to us because we're going to talk about this more frequently. But one of the exercises I do in my private coaching, and by the way, if you want support, there's a link below, schedule a discovery call with me, is to first look at several of your past relationships and look at where you felt love in those past relationships, where you just to sit and visualize just purely where you felt love in those past relationships.
And we decided that that was part of getting from the despair to the hope. It's like you, at some point, you felt something good in.
Yeah. So
it wasn't perfect.
I took all the good
Mhm.
from several different relationships and I said, okay, what did it feel like to have like really good chemistry with someone?
Mhm.
What did it feel like to have really good communication with somebody? Because
Right.
it might have been a different relationship.
Right.
What did it feel like to have a person that was aligned in your, you know, your values, that was aligned in that way, and just sit with that feeling? What did it feel like to be aligned in your lifestyle with somebody?
Yeah.
What did it feel like to just even be committed to somebody? And sit, and it might be you take a little bit from this relationship and a little bit from this relationship and a little bit from this relationship. And the idea is to do, there's a journaling workbook that I do with my private coaching clients to help them get into that embodied feeling. This
Yeah.
kind of mirrors what you did well before you met me,
Yes,
if we can
with
talk about.
with my enchanted journal.
Well,
yes.
for those that Paula talked about in previous videos, her enchanted journal is to actually describe what it feels like to be in this relationship. To what does it feel like to have the kind of banter
Without the knowing of it.
without the knowing of it?
Without
Yeah,
the knowing of
yeah.
it. And it really took a lot of getting away from the white Teslas
Yes.
and going towards the red Porsches. Like, this is like a horrible analogy, but you get the
I
point,
think it's a
right?
perfect analogy. By the way,
So
on
LA.
for the record,
Oh,
as I was driving to our first date,
that's true.
I saw it because not because I was paying attention for a red Porsche, but because I actually said to myself, if I see a red Porsche, I'm going to meet the love of my life. Now, over a 2-year period that I had this little game for myself, I did see several red Porsches. I saw a lot more white Teslas.
Yeah.
But the point was, you differentiate between the white and the red. I wanted to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So I put it in my system, what it felt like, would it feel like to see this? How am I going to feel when I see this red Porsche?
Okay. So this is
Okay.
exactly where I'm going with it.
Okay.
So my journal and you know what I practiced a lot over the 2 years that I spent on my own
Yeah.
was that I was in the place of embracing the possibilities.
Okay.
And that's the hope piece.
Okay.
So for me, it was like, I'm going to embrace this in a way, and I'm going to feel it as if it's happening. I'm going to walk as if, I'm going to talk as if, I'm going to vibrate as if, I'm going to frequency as if, like however you want to talk about it. But I was communing in a way with source, spirit, whatever, to say, there is a knowing in me that it's out there and it's going to feel like this.
And coming back to when we begin to do this, I believe this brings us closer. What's the title there? It brings us closer to the person we want. Because coming back to that video, and again, this is my judgment on that, you know, what I felt from this person was, if we're so focused on what we don't want, and it's just white Tesla, white Tesla, white Tesla, white Tesla, white Tesla, and that's all you see, you're going to miss that car that drove, literally the red Porsche will be in front of you. The person will be waving,
Right.
and you'll still won't see it because all you focus on are those experiences you don't want.
Yeah.
And what's going to bring somebody closer to you, whether you're a man or woman watching this, and you and I genuinely believe this deeply, is when we embody what we want to experience and let that be in our reticular activating system.
Yeah.
Let that be in our consciousness instead of what you don't want. then you have a greater chance of attracting or experiencing the kind of relationship you want. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. You could sit and do Om and
Well, and
meditate
there-
all day long,
But there is,
but it's going to put the odds are better
The odds are
than the
better.
other way.
well, and what you resist persists. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can sit all day long and say, this is the shallow end of the dating pool that
Yeah.
I'm dealing with. And that's what you're going to get.
And sadly, and for those watching this, I get that you're inundated with reel and stories and videos and such from mostly everybody talking about what a shit show it is. And this is proof, folks. I'm telling you, we're both, you know, we've been divorced. We've had 2 significant relationships before we met each other. We met through dating apps. We had to get through 3 apps to get to each other. We had to get through 3 apps.
we did.
And I'm not saying this to brag, but I mean this with all my heart. I have the healthiest relationship, the healthiest, loving, compassionate, juicy, delicious relationship I've ever experienced in my life. And look, I know we're almost 10 months in, so we're not, I don't have this, we don't have this long history to say this is going to work.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, we're in the top 4% just getting this far.
Well, and, you know, and I think, and this is, you know,
Let's
not
put a
to say
bow on this. Yeah.
But that, you know, if I were to get hit by a bus or you were to get hit by a bus, let's
Yes,
say
we
tomorrow,
talked about that.
I now have this as the baseline point to move from.
Yeah.
But also this was in my enchanted journal with all of the line items.
Yeah.
You know, exactly the way it looks and feels now is
Yeah.
how it felt to me
Hmm.
when I was putting it on paper.
Aw.
Yeah. So
Okay, embodied love.
There we
That's
go.
the secret.
That's
Hey,
it.
listen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video. Post a comment below. We're actually, Paula now reads them as well. We do our best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. I said that.
you do.
Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Join the membership here on YouTube. Follow us on social media. All that good stuff, is listed below. All right, time for Q&A.
All right.
If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. He's my son who passed away over 7 years ago. God, it's coming up on 8. And in his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institute, and scholarships to coaching as well. And again, there's a little $sign. Click that and you can donate. Also, if anyone wants to join us live on the hot seat or the love seat,
Ooh,
we'll
I
call
would
it love
love
seat.
that.
Just click the link that I posted there. And you can join us on
Yeah, we
join
haven't
us
done
live.
one of those live.
Well, we're hoping to have it happen.
You go all
Chris,
the way up?
okay, was there any questions?
Yeah, I thought I saw one.
Wait.
I think
What about believing that the relationship is already there and
Yes.
available to us? You want to lean into that
Oh,
one?
totally. I'm all over that, Annika. I think that if we can, and this is sort of like stay the course.
Yeah.
If we believe that it is out there, it is available to us, and we embrace that possibility.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you rather be in that court than anything else? Like, wouldn't you rather be coming from that?
Yeah, like why
Yeah.
why spend so much time in the doubts and despair
Yeah.
court? Did you call it court?
In that court, yes.
Yeah, that court. So and in my mind, you know, I actually used to visualize. I used to do a visual. I don't. Well, you know about this. We haven't talked about it in a long time. But when I went for my morning walks, I do my meditation, and I used to visualize my future partner would email me first, which you did.
Okay.
I had other, and I kind of visualized how the dialogue would go, like the first initial email or two.
Would it be a fight about polarity?
No, it wasn't going to be what happened between us. I visualized where our first date would be. But you know what I did is I wanted do this every time I walk the beach. I'd sit and visualize what that initial contact. Now, did ours end up that way? No.
Right.
But you know what it did? It always put a smile on my face. I swear to God, this is honest God's truth. Most of you remember my previous relationship. And literally after that, once I felt ready to be, in a relationship, I would visualize how that first meeting went. Now, again, it didn't go like that, but the joy that I felt has kind of been mirrored ever since our second meeting. Yeah.
He's so cute.
Big deal. All right. Let's get another question in here. Should women trust relationship experts who only give tips on how to get a man, but refuse to talk about their own wives and show pictures of their relationship? First off, just trust in and of itself is, I couldn't give advice on whom to trust per se. Like, in other words, I don't want to say that people that don't show their relationships the way you and I do.
Yeah.
Trust is something, I think it's an individual thing.
Well, it also,
trust.
I mean, if these people are in the public eye, they might not want to have their whole lives exposed and whatnot. I mean, I'm a believer that if somebody's giving, with all of the Epstein files and the this and the that, and don't get me wrong, I'm all, we won't go political here on this, but I feel like I have witnessed many gurus who have had circumstances that have shown up in the news, let's just say.
Yeah.
And did it discount any of the advice that I got from them prior to that? No, it didn't.
Yeah.
I thought it was good advice at the time. Nothing that they did changed that advice.
Yeah.
And so, I think that something like that, I don't think it really matters. I don't know.
I certainly believe that one of the things that I've always believed is I talk about my coaching comes from both what I study and my lived experience. And so now that you're a part of this, I'm showing one of the intent was to bring you on is to talk about what we're experiencing, what we're feeling, not to the extent of being role models per se, but I can tell you.
Or not to flaunt it either. I think it's, I mean, for me, I want to give hope to people.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I hope, Angela, that answers your question. I want to point out, Sassy brought up that about a year before I met you, I talked about how dating was a shit show. Yeah. Now, I believe, and I'm not gonna deny that I said that, and I'm also human. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, I'm not right. Like when I share what I believe and what I teach and everything, I'm a flawed human being. I've made mistakes. Now, do I believe that human pair bonding is dysfunctional? Yeah, we human beings are not good at this shit.
Yeah.
Okay. I have that belief system. I'm not saying people are that way. I just think human beings are not. We're still evolving as a species to be good at this thing called dating, mating, relating. I don't think we're, I think as a species, we're still evolving on an emotional level.
And, to piggyback on it, I think that we all have our moments of like, God, that was the fifth date that, was so or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go on a lot of video dates before I'd even have coffee meets. And, I would have what I called the triple hitter days.
Yeah.
That, I have 3 in a row. In fact, the day that I talked with you, I had 2.
Oh, you had a couple more.
But, there have been days that have brought me down for sure. And I could have easily said, yeah, that was a shit show. But I also, I certainly felt the downs of it. I'm not saying I didn't, but I think where I ultimately like to stay and hover is in the embracing of the possibility.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm glad that came up because I think when my attitude was for lack of a better word, saying it was a shit show out there, is my attitude was a reflection of my own, negativity, if you will. And guess what? I was in a state of negativity. I wasn't attracting anyone.
Mm,
I wasn't attracting.
mm.
And I had to see the contrast. I didn't like, I'll be candid with you, when I did shoot a few videos, and this was back in 2024, I was a little bit in a bitter space, a little bit angry, and I had to pull myself out of it. I had to pull myself out of doubt and despair and remember that hope. And really, and I use my own tools of some of the tools that I use in my private coaching. I had to come back to that. It's so easy to fall into that doubt and despair. I mean, it's like Godfather. It just pulls you in, there's a scene.
Yeah.
So anyway, Annika's back on and she shares a question. Question: how do I address insecurities when they're
when they do come up around betrayal and cheating or crossing the line?
What is acceptable? How would you address that?
Well, so this seems like a double-pronged question. Don't make it go away yet.
Okay.
How do I address insecurities when they do come up? And then you've got the other side of it, which is betrayal, cheating, and crossing the line. And what's acceptable. So I'm assuming you're talking about your own insecurities, Annika, that you are feeling insecure about your relationship because there is potentially betraying, cheating, or crossing the line.
No, I think no, only because my guess is, having experienced that in the past, how do I avoid insecurities going into, like, you're going into a blank slate if you have fear around cheating or someone crossing the line?
I took it differently. Okay. Yeah, how do I address insecurities? I mean, every situation is different. I don't have you
ever used beginner's mind?
No.
So I think the idea, beginner's mind, is literally going in like a blank slate with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's difficult when we have these predispositions about being hurt from the past, that we're almost looking for that person that, might cross the line.
Yeah.
Again, this is a very complex question, Annika. I prefer to address it when it's actually happening versus give you some generic advice on what to do.
Yeah, I'd love to know the context, more around that question.
Exactly, because but this comes back to self-love, okay?
Always.
When we are in an embodied state of self-love, we trust our intuition. We trust our choices. And it doesn't have to be about them. It's really about trusting within ourselves. Yeah. And our guidance system is driving us all the time.
Yeah. Well, you have to decide where are the lines that you want to draw.
Yeah.
Where, what are the lines that you want to draw, and where do they stop and where do they start?
All right. I hope that helped. Yeah. Krista wants to just point out, I personally wouldn't trust dating coaches who are not forthcoming about their own relationships. I mean, we kind of, our situation, and I want to just share that not everybody has to, because I understand privacy and that sort of thing. I know a lot of actors don't talk about their relationships because they want to keep that part of their lives private.
Yeah.
For us, we feel so much comfort because we are junkies for personal development, self-help, spiritual work, therapy, human behavior, human pair bonding, philosophy, spirituality. I mean, these are the topics of conversation. To be on the fly of the wall of our living room with hot morning coffee. And
you will need coffee to be the fly on the wall for our coffee.
And for why I'm sharing this is that you'll be the coffee. Is that we have friends who are single and we'd like to see them, in the type of relationship that they desired. We also know where their roadblocks are. Sometimes they've shared us, sometimes they don't see it. Sometimes it's really hard to see a blind spot.
Yeah.
To see it ourselves.
Yeah.
So one of the value of talking to people and saying, hey, I need some perspective on where I'm at, because it's hard to see our own blind spots. So coming back to this, these videos that we're recording is because we want to help people see the blind spots that they may not see within themselves. And this conversation is, again, if you're focused on the white Tesla, you're not going to see the red Porsche along the way. So,
Somebody might be in there, by the way, going, I'd do a white Tesla though.
okay. Hunch says you two are a blessing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Okay. On both sides of his name. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Oh, Annika was kind enough to give us a $10 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate you. Again, if anyone wants to join us live, I just post a link. You can join us. We can have fun having a chat together. We'll be kind. I promise to be kind. All right, here we go. Here's one. Gretchen. Hi, Paul and Jonathan. What to do about a guy who calls every other week and the conversations are amazing, but he hasn't asked me on a date. We've known each other through music, so we've met. Interesting.
Okay.
I want to see how you'd handle that.
So
I have my way of handling that.
so
So
you've met. Can I see that one more time?
okay, so he calls every other week.
Every other week, yeah. And the conversations are amazing. So I mean, is there a time limit on it? First of all, I'm not sure there is, but I would say that if you're having feelings, you know, I mean, for me, I would be like, hey, I really am enjoying these conversations. Can we do it more? Like more, please, you know?
You know, what's interesting.
Yeah.
The night before we saw each other the second time, do you remember? You're like, hey, we're having so many great conversations.
Yeah.
Do you want to get together for a drink?
Yes.
I think you said on Tuesday.
We were still in friend mode.
We were still in friend
Yeah.
mode. Okay. So actually, this kind of relates to what happened with us. So without going into the backstory, before our second meeting or date, if you will, 2 days prior, Paula said, hey, we're having such a good time getting to know one another. Would you like to get together for a drink? Yeah. And I think you said Wednesday night. Yeah. And I said, no, I'm hosting a webinar.
Right.
And I was kind of like, you know, I didn't have a date in mind, right, because the following Thursday I was going to a funeral.
Yep.
But in the back of my mind, I was thinking that, you know, if you were available, I'd let you know, but I wasn't sure how I would feel after the funeral. But I woke up that Thursday morning saying, hey, you know, I'd like to get together with you. But she was the one who initiated it. So Gretchen, if you're having a good time talking to this guy, why aren't you initiating? You know, folks, I don't believe it's a man's responsibility to initiate a date or a meeting. I'm saying
it's nice if they do.
I get it. But you know what? It doesn't matter who initiates it. Get the meeting going. Yeah. Because if you're hitting it off, then maybe something can come of it. But who really cares who initiates it? How do you feel about that?
I mean, part of me says, you know, I have so many friends of mine that go, I'm the girl, he should initiate, you know. But I also feel like sometimes we'd be waiting around twiddling our thumbs forever, you know.
By the way, you wrote me first on the dating. By the way, there's a dating app called Bumble where women initiate. Folks, we are no longer living in medieval times, okay? Yeah. Ladies, if you really don't believe that you're capable, well, first off, if you really are so fixated that it's the man's responsibility, you could be waiting a really long time.
She says that to add, it's right here.
To add. Yeah. Oh, here we go. To add, he only lives about an hour away. I like talking to him on the phone and have indicated that I would like to meet him in person.
Great.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
And if you've indicated, then what's his answer been?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm curious what the question is here, really. Then, yes, truth, we're too old for all the waiting around stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, if you've asked him and he hasn't said yes, then there's no need to keep going forward in this dynamic. Okay. Let me go here. All right. Deidre's in the house. You read it.
Okay.
Please.
What if you've worked on self-love so much that you don't think anyone could love you the way you love you? Ooh. Do you have one for that?
Well, when I read that, I think of expectation.
Mm.
Like, I expect you to love me the way I want to be loved. By the way, that could be a recipe for disaster. Now, hear me out. I
Yeah.
know you want to say
Ah,
something.
yeah.
Okay, we all have our needs and our
Yeah,
wants.
yeah.
Okay. To express your needs and wants is critically important in a relationship. But I actually think you should love yourself more. You should actually, like, if you're in a relationship, you should love yourself here, and then somebody else loving you should be here, not the other way around. Like, self-love is your main through line.
I mean, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, and I'm a believer that our relationship with ourself
Yeah.
and our spirit, higher self, source, universe,
Yeah.
God, whatever you want to call, um, is paramount to my relationship with any other person.
Okay.
And so I think that is there an assumption in saying that nobody can love me more than I can? If that's where you're going with it, in a way, it's quite possible, right? And it doesn't speak to expectation. Do you follow what I'm saying? It doesn't speak to expectation. But I think also that from a point of self-love, like, this is where where you draw the lines. This is where
Oh, I see where you're going.
what you want. This is where you come
You don't
from.
compromise your.
You
Yeah.
stand solidly in your truth.
Yeah.
And that person who you attract was meant for you in that way.
And they are going to match you in that
In
thing
that
of
same-
self-respect,
Yes.
self-confidence, self-reliance,
Yes.
self-esteem,
Yes.
self-discipline, self-worth.
Yes.
And anyone who's not in their own state of self-love, right?
Yeah.
Because here, what you're really saying is, if I love myself like this, I want someone who also loves themselves like this. And if we have, attraction and, compatibility and all those things, it's going to be. But if someone doesn't love themselves very much and you're here, then there's probably going to be a gap and mismatch.
It's
Yeah.
misalignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great question.
All right. Great question.
Mm.
Hey, if you have a question on that, post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. All right.
Oh,
Next
do this
question.
one.
Yeah. All right. Question. What is your definition of cheating? Mentally, emotionally?
Woo.
I'd like to hear yours.
Okay. Well, first off, I know a lot of people in the polyamorous community, in the ethical non-monogamy community, and one of the biggest truths that exist in those communities is that they come from a place of pure communication.
Okay.
They get with another person and they are very clear. What are you looking for in a significant other?
Okay.
Are you looking for a long-term relationship? What does it look like to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And now, granted, there are other people in the mix in those, but the communication is there. And I think they model what beautiful communication should be between.
But those are relationships.
Even long-term partners who are monogamous and ethical.
Okay. But those are relationships that are open to being physically intimate with other
another
people,
person,
and
or
usually
having a
with-
relationship with another person.
Her question was directly about
I get it.
cheating. Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to say that because I think the communication piece is important.
Oh, got
Okay.
it. Okay.
Then, what do I think of cheating? Okay, so now let's say that the communication is, you're my long-term partner. We
Yeah.
are together forever. We are monogamous.
Yeah.
We are exclusive.
Yeah.
We will always be that way. And then all of a sudden, somebody is sitting on his lap and he gets turned on and ends up on a night with someone else. That to me is cheating.
Okay, got it.
So I think,
But she
because
asked
the
mentally
intention-
too. So what if I'm just
Mm.
fantasizing about my
Does it take away
my
from?
Hollywood crush that I've had since I was 13 years old?
Well, my opinion of it is, you're in my bed
yeah.
and you're coming home to me.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking if you're
So-
just mentally.
So if you're
fantasizing.
mentally, okay, are they mentally cheating because they're unhappy, too.
Mm.
There is that piece.
Okay, now that's a great question. So if the relationship is great and you guys are physically intimate regularly and somebody is out philandering the whole time, I'm like, fuck that. Fuck
Yeah,
them. Okay.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's
No,
now
I
if the
agree.
relationship is suffering emotionally, if there isn't any physical intimacy and you get tempted one night, is that cheating?
Yes, it's still cheating.
Okay. So what if there's a mea culpa and like, look, I mean, and there's a desire to repair the relationship because the relationship is deficient.
So, I think the question was speaking to whether or not what is actual considered cheating. And
We're just giving our, by the way, folks, we're just giving our opinion. We're not experts in this area.
by any
I'm
means.
just sharing with you the way I view
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
think that what usually before we accuse the person, we should find out what was the cause.
Well, and I think the more interesting
At least that's
question
the way
here
I look
was
at
the
it.
mentally part. Like, okay, there's the actual cheating, but what happens when one is mentally cheating? To me,
So if I
think-
watch an attractive woman on the screen or Jason Momoa,
Jason Momoa.
Mimosa, that's funny. Well, because every woman seems to be in love with him and like they have a 10.5 nanosecond, like, oh, I was in bed
Yeah.
with him for a second. Is
Yeah.
that cheating?
Okay,
I mean, I
but-
think we're human animals that have desires, but where the line in my mind is when you cross from maybe a nanosecond of fantasy to actually starting to develop a fantasy around it, creating narratives around it, and even putting yourself in environments where you do find yourself cheating.
Okay,
Or
that was one of the old Dr. Laura things, like don't put yourself in that circumstance. But I think the I think where the bridge gets crossed
okay,
is it's in the intention.
okay,
If the intention is even if it were unintentional, but the cheat actually happens, the question becomes, what is your intention for the current relationship you're in? Like, where do you go with that? Because you could take this off into porn, right? Like somebody's watching porn.
okay.
They're mentally gone from their relationship. And maybe they want to bring that into their relationship. Is that okay? That's okay. I mean, maybe it's something that the wife considers that's cheating, but he's like, you know what? I would love to bring this sexual play into our relationship.
Okay, so
intention.
coming back to mental, or I was thinking someone posted a comment about emotional cheating, where this is where you're having conversations with another person. You're actually engaging in conversation. We're not talking about physical, penis in the vagina stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about you are beginning a conversation with somebody and you start having emotional sex.
Yep.
My friend Dr. Sherry Myers wrote a book about this called Chatting or Cheating, where emotional sex. By the way, there are a lot more people having emotional sex probably than actual physical sex. And I believe that the minute you go down the road of emotionally engaging with someone with some sort of fantasy about them, then you're beginning to cross the line.
Yeah, I agree.
And I say beginning. I mean, I don't know exactly where that line is, but you're beginning to cross the line when you engage in emotional connection with another person and you have fantasies around that. Even on a physical level. And then if you start to even engage in phone sex or whatnot, well, then you're really crossing the line. And now, again, I think it's important to look at the root cause. What's causing the emotional shift, and whether or not your relationship is worthy enough to actually repair it. Again, this is where I invite you to hire therapists or other people that have some expertise around this. Well, I want to move on.
We beat that dead horse.
Okay. By the way, I want to give some love to Debbie for the $50 super sticker. Thank you for the love. You are so sweet. We love you. Big hugs to you. Gretchen wants to point out, thank you. You're great together. I appreciate your channel. Thanks so much. Again, if you have a question, post a question. Sounds like time waster. Back when dating. Krista wrote, self-love at a high level will attract those who are willing to rise up to that level.
Absolutely.
You know, there is a lot of talk about those who do personal development, self-help, spiritual work, therapy, who have done the healing work, that have done the embodied love work, you know, have done the visualizations, that it's much harder to find a partner at your level because the sea is, the sea is
the shallow end of the pool.
Well, again, that's a judgment.
I know.
Okay.
But...
And I have a hard time with that judgment.
Yeah.
But I get the idea of the judgment because I believe human beings are rather emotionally dysfunctional, myself included. Okay. I know you don't think you are, but but I do believe we all have work to do on an emotional level. And it might feel like there's less people, but here's the thing. If you're focused on there's less people, if you're not focused on, the red Porsche, if you're only focused on the white Teslas that we talked about before, then you won't see it. The idea is when you've actually reached a level of genuinely embodying love for yourself. Yeah, it might be harder to find that person harder is the judgment.
I actually think that we then are, vibrating at that frequency of love, and that it does, I think it finds its way. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little Pollyanna, but
okay.
Just a little bit.
All right, let's see. This comes back to the cheating conversation.
Yes, you cheating your mind. Did you see that?
Wait, Sassy wrote, there's a mental, emotional, physical cheating. Just because one is with another physically, that person's mind can be elsewhere. Mentally, emotional cheating can be worse than the physical part. Yeah, we kind of addressed that. I'm in full agreement. Brooke, there are many forms of cheating. Secrets you keep from your spouse is a form of cheating, emotionally, physical. Well, okay, financial. So, all right, let's talk about, I want to go down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
So, I don't believe I have any secrets from you per se that I can think of. I mean, and again, I'm a big believer in being vulnerable, being authentic, and being transparent. And what I mean to say is if it's material to the relationship, most everything. Now, does that mean I've remembered everything?
Right. Or that you tell me everything that's,
well,
on the top of your mind.
Okay. So now, I don't have a filter. Sometimes if I had a better filter, you wouldn't hear everything that's in the top of my head. Okay. And sometimes, folks, I stick myself I put my foot so deep in my mouth because I'll say something that so should I keep those thoughts to myself as a secret?
I mean, I don't, the question here was whether or not, keeping things, period, whether they're emotional, financial, in secret, does it ever make sense? And I mean, we just come from this open heart, open mind, including open books and open finances and all of those things. But I know a lot of people who don't want to, open their finances, especially in midlife. I have a friend of mine who's like, you know what? He's going to pull his own little red wagon and I'm going to pull mine and we'll figure it out,
Okay.
So, so I think it does become a question of communication, and I don't necessarily know if I think it's cheating.
Well, okay, again, play devil's advocate for a second. I don't have a filter, so I say everything.
Yeah.
But if I didn't tell you everything, those thoughts did go through my head. Are those then a secret just because they went through my head?
Well, all right. So I have been in relationship where things were not expressed as openly as you and I have.
Okay.
And I certainly, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of bubbled up under
Okay.
there, you know, in the background thinking, okay, is he cheating on me? Is there, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And, you know, he just wasn't expressive, but, you know, it does pose the question,
Yeah.
you know, what's happening here? And cheating is the first thing that, you know, tends to come to our minds.
Mm.
So,
Oh, well, we could beat this
Yeah,
one
I
to a
know.
dead horse. Well, coming back to sharing things, Angela wants to know, do you think that a couple should share their passwords?
I mean, we do, but
Do you know my passwords?
actually, I'm not
No,
sure.
yeah,
I don't, you probably have told
I
me,
know
but I don't
your
know if I
code.
remember.
I know the code to get into your phone. Well, my phone doesn't have like a phone lock, so I
Right.
know your phone lock.
Right. And you
You
don't
know
have my
what's
face for my
interesting?
Face ID, so there is
So this is where it's an interesting conversation around like my
How open are you?
well let's play this out for a second. Our phones, you know, our phones are an extension of us these days. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you might as well just embed this in our bodies because they're an extension of us. And to some degree, like your phone could be your journal.
Yeah.
And to that extent, you may have things in your phone that are not a secret to your partner, but it's your private thoughts that you don't want shared.
Yeah. Well,
You don't want, like, I
I
mean,
keep my journal on my phone
yeah,
and my iPad. But you and I have come to agreement that, you know, if I'm going to share anything, I'm going to outwardly share it with you. Otherwise, it's sort of off limits. And it's one of those things that also in part of the communication, like, you know, that are those are innermost thoughts.
yeah,
And they're meant for me and my higher self, let's just say. And but I've known some women who have gone through the phones, who have gone through their journals,
yeah.
you know, and we're not, you know, in the end, it's one of those be careful, you might get what you know
Okay,
what you
so
ask for sort of thing.
so would you want your last partner to read some of your journal entries?
Actually, he and I talked about this.
Okay,
And we were like, no. Mm-mm.
okay. So
But I would read some to him. And
okay.
yeah.
So
And he would read some to me.
well, you guys went to a couples workshop and you did things together. So you were working on repairing your relationship
Yeah.
at some point. And I think sharing that. I was in a relationship with a woman some years back, says, look, I've got a journal and or you know, I've got my diary, it's
Yeah.
under my bed. If
Yeah.
I ever find out you read from it,
Yeah.
our relationship is over.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to passwords, look at I think I know the password to the router.
Angela has it right. She says, when you trust your partner, you don't need to know their password.
Exactly. But you know what? In our relationship, my phone is right here. If you want to
And
look at
mine is
anything
too.
in
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
However, if I did start to journal about our relationship and I wanted to process my thoughts and my feelings
Yeah.
without you
Without
knowing
you.
about it, because they sometimes, by the way, folks,
Yeah.
here's the thing, coming back to that filter conversation we're having.
Yeah.
You know, we humans have something like 15,000 to 60,000 thoughts in a day.
Yeah.
Some of them are, you know, our negative patterns, our limiting beliefs, they're repetitive. Sometimes we have wild thoughts that you don't want anyone to ever know about because it's insane,
Yeah.
the kind of thoughts we've had. And where it comes to what's most important in relationship, I think is, at least in our relationship, we have such a healthy dose of attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. We communicate our feelings about each other. We are transparent at almost a ridiculous level
Yeah.
that it's not necessary. However, most couples don't reach that
Yeah.
level. In
No, I
fact,
agree.
I would think most couples barely reach a level of, you know, genuinely sharing what's in their heart on a regular basis. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on to the channel
Yeah.
is to demonstrate the importance of really having genuine emotional conversations with your partner, particularly those transparent things, particularly, you know what, being able to share the ridiculous thoughts in your head and know you're not going to be abandoned for some ridiculous thought in your head, which could include fantasizing about somebody. And not that that happens a lot, but some of my other ridiculous thoughts are like, what just came out of your mouth? And I appreciate the acceptance from you is what I'm getting at. I hope that, so coming back to passwords, I think it's important that now, given that we're living together, I want you to have, like, I want my partner to be my medical director or what's it called? The proxy. And probably have my passwords, because I trust you so much that I'd want you to help my son out, because everything I have goes to him. And it's probably going to change at some point. But
you know, there are people out there that at the 9-month mark that would not be this way. And we're, you know, this is, we're not advocating, you know, to do something like that in the short term, but I think that, look, you know, you and I have earned trust in a lot of ways, right? Because of how we are together. But there are couples that I think, you know, one-sided doesn't have enough earned trust.
Okay. So I want to jump in because you said something. You know, some people haven't reached the level of trust that we've reached at a 9-month mark.
Right.
And that we've gotten some criticism that our relationship is still very green. And I get that piece. But you know what? The minute two people engage in a relationship, I'm like, why are people fucking around with casual dating, with situationships, with friends with benefits, with hooking up? Either you shit or get off the pot. Two people, the minute they decide they want to explore a relationship together. By the way, I'm going to be kind of bombastic here for a second. The minute two people, you either shit or get off the pot. We are doing this because we want to see a future together. Now, you're going to know this in the first month of dating. No, you're not. Are you going to know this in the second month in dating? But by the time you get to 3 or 4 months in, if the two of you aren't looking at this from a serious level, like either living together or getting married, it doesn't have to be marriage with the government. It can be a spiritual marriage. If you're getting to the 4th, 5th, and 6th month and it's not becoming serious, then your chances of relationship success diminish dramatically. Okay. There's this fantasy that being together for years is a guarantee of relationship success. Look how many people were married for 20 years and then they got divorced. What matters most, and I'm yelling right now, so please forgive me, and it's what I'm feeling in this relationship, is the importance to have regular communication with one another about what's happening in your heart. What's one of the first things I ask you every morning?
What's in my heart?
Why do I ask you that question?
Because you're wanting to explore how I'm feeling, what I'm feeling. I mean, I think, you know, we dive into this subject, you know, constantly. So
and look at, thank you.
It's a beautiful question too.
and you know what? I think couples should be asking, what's in your heart today? Like, and by the way, men don't get fucking off the hook. For any of you guys watching, you don't get off the hook because you're a guy, okay? You don't get off the hook. Folks, if you're not starting to explore an all-in relationship by, you know, here, Krista says, I prefer an all-in guy who is enthusiastically passionate about pursuing a commitment rather than the guy who's indecisive, passive, confused, who's ultimately not interested in wasting time. And that's exactly my fucking point. Please forgive my cursing here, is that if you're not moving towards something serious by the 6-month mark, then in my mind, it's again, statistically speaking, it's going to be rare. But if you're not moving closer together by the time you get to the 6 months, what are you waiting for?
Well, this, you know, this is exactly what we've been talking about, which is like, you know, firmly where you stand on this. And to sit with some, like Angela's saying, some people don't know what they need or want. Well, that is true. but you do. And if you do, and they're not in it to win it, like, why are we all here? What are
Yeah.
we doing here? You know, so-
And most people find, and I'm going to wrap it up on this
Mm.
note, okay? Most people find themselves in a casual relationship where they've got companionship, connection, and physical intimacy, but it's lacking an all-in commitment. And again, I'm here, well, at least I think we're both here to encourage all-in relationships, genuine embodied love. And I can't begin to tell you how fucking fun it is to be with your best friend,
Mm.
your lover, your confidant, to have the kind of relationship where there's a gigantic open heart. I mean, I want to live to be 200 years old because that's how much
Mm.
fucking fun it is to have that. And I just want that for everyone. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
It's like we're done.
All right. What did you think of what I just had to share? Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in these videos, please hit the like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with myself or even Paula, and again, we're hopeful to do a workshop pretty soon. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Check out the links I have below, whether it's the books I recommend or have been recommended. I'm so used to doing I because I'm not used to we yet. So please forgive me,
No, it's your show.
sweetheart. Well, it's you and I together. And so we're going to wrap up this video by saying a big hug of appreciation to those who donated, like Annika and Debbie. Thanks so much. Thanks, Angela. Thank you all for the love. I want to give you big hugs to Krista and everybody that commented, Sassy and everyone. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful, fantastic evening. Be well. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.